ਰਸਤਾ ਵੱਖਰਾ, ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਮੈਂ ਭੁੱਲ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨਾਲ ਦਰਦ ਪ੍ਰਗਟ ਕਰਦਾ, ਉਹਦੀ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਿਆਂ ਲਈ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਕਰਦਾ। ਪਰ ਜਿਸ ਦਿਨ ਮੇਰੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਆਏਗੀ, ਵਰਤਾਰਾ ਵੱਖਰਾ ਹੋਏਗਾ, ਨਜ਼ਾਰਾ ਵੱਖਰਾ ਹੋਏਗਾ।
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Today we're going to be discussing somebody called Dr. Manmohan Singh, the 14th Prime Minister of India. Now, Dr. Manmohan Singh, he is rightly acclaimed as somebody of being a scholar, a thinker, an economist. He's diligent at his work, he's accessible to his people, and he's got a nice demeanour, he's very softly spoken, and he's a great statesman. He represents all that's good about India, and he's led India. He's the only Prime Minister who's successfully completing a second term in office, so there's obviously something good about this guy. And before we go on to discuss a bit more about Dr. Manmohan Singh, just want to talk a little bit about his background, just so we got a bit more of a flavour about who this guy is and where he's come from, and perhaps why he's so successful at what he's done. Now, Dr. Manmohan Singh was born in 1932 on the Pakistan side of Punjab. So he has seen a lot of massacres. He himself has seen atrocities. He was a teenager when the partition happened, and his family had to flee to the Indian side of Punjab. They were forced to flee. Now, from there, he studied in universities, in colleges, a very academic guy, very scholarly, and he progressed and progressed to the point where he went to Cambridge University to study economics. Now, Cambridge, it's one of the best universities in the world. They don't accept anybody there. So he's gone to Cambridge, studied economics. Not only has he done that, but then he's gone from Cambridge all the way to Oxford University, the top university in the world, to do his masters. From there, he's published, his dissertation was about Indian economics and Indian trade. That was then published and became a book. You know, another accolade to Dr. Manmohan Singh. He then returns to India with all these accolades, all these awards that he's won from universities and scholarships, and he enters Indian politics. In Indian politics, he rises to the position of finance minister, and from the finance minister, he's gone straight to the top through his diligence and his hard work, and showing the Congress party that he's one of them. He's gone straight to becoming the 14th Prime Minister of India. Not just that, but the only non-Hindu Prime Minister that's ever existed in free India. And as Prime Minister of this free India, Dr. Manmohan Singh, when he was elected as Prime Minister of India, in 2004 took the oath of office. Now, what is the oath of office? The oath of office is a pledge to the Republic of India that I will do my best to uphold the Constitution, I will live by the Constitution, I will die by the Constitution, and I will maintain law and order according to the Constitution of India, as long as it benefits the Republic of India, and I'm here to serve the people. So he done that in 2004, and then he gets re-elected in 2009, and he takes that same oath of office. Now, a lot of people would say he's done a fantastic job. I would say he's done a fantastic job. The Constitution of India says many things which he has abided by. In a country where so many people are being persecuted, minorities are being manoeuvred against, the Constitution says little about minorities. Now, Abraham Lincoln said that a good example of a democracy is the way the majority treat the minority. That is a true democracy. Now, India adopted formally a democratic approach to government in 1947, a pluralistic approach. What that means is we have all different minorities in India, but as long as we're working for the same goal, we give the right and equal rights to absolutely everybody. Formally, India adopted this. Informally, however, they adopted an integrationist approach to government. What that is, you absorb all minorities into the majority. Now, this thing was actually enshrined into their constitution. How? A little example. Sikhs who had fought tooth and nail for the Indian government to free India were declared Hindus within the constitution. The right of their existence was taken away. This is how an integrationist approach to government works. Now, Dr. Manmohan Singh, when he became Prime Minister, He vowed to uphold the constitution, and he's done an amazing job, because to this day Sikhs are not recognized in that country. In the UK, we are seen not only as a separate ethnicity, but a separate race, a separate religion. And this was enshrined in the British Parliament in 1981. But our very own country still doesn't recognise us. And Dr. Manmohan Singh, being a so-called Sikh, hasn't even addressed the fact that I'm leading a nation of people. I myself aren't even recognising the Constitution. But his pledge to uphold the Constitution, that overrides any morality. That overrides any identity. I mean, even if we took the identity issue to a side, I mean, what we'd like to address is, what party does Dr. Manmohan Singh actually belong to? Let's forget for even a moment that he's a Sikh. Just as a human being, the party that he belongs to, the Congress Party, is the party that was responsible for destroying the house of Guru Ram Das Ji and Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji, taking in tanks to suppress a civil rights movement, a human rights movement that was no different to Martin Luther King's movement in America. To suppress that type of movement, to suppress poor people who were asking for their rights, to suppress a man who was speaking for all those poor people, they sent, rather than talk with those people around a table, like a democratic country would, they send in tanks, they send in helicopters, jet bombers, 100,000 army personnel to suppress that one voice and destroy the holiest shrine for the Sikhs. Not just for the Sikhs, everybody is welcome there. That is what you call a democracy. Harmandir Sahib is what you call a democracy, where all four corners of the world are welcome. Yet the Indian government, led by this Congress, who Dr. Manmohan Singh belongs to, decided that we're going to crush this democracy. That was their democratic approach, to crush this democracy in Harmandir Sahib. This is the party that Dr. Manmohan Singh belongs to. Dr. Manmohan Singh was around when this happened. Now let's look at his very own doorstep in Delhi, where he's moved to. In Delhi, over 5,000 innocent people were butchered in a premeditated, pre-planned, frenzied attack on one particular community. Raped, burnt, pillaged and looted, all in broad daylight. Sponsored by the government, executed by the soldiers, protected by the politicians. And the politicians, people like Dr. Manmohan Singh, who belong to the Congress Party. Now, those killings took place, fair enough. But after those killings of innocent people, I mean, what would you even say to Dr. Manmohan Singh? You tie a turban, you have an uncut beard. People like you are the ones who were dragged off buses, beaten, clubbed to death, because their only crime was that they looked like Sikhs. I even know of my own family members when they were in India during that time. They didn't even have turbans. They wanted to go to Delhi airport. They were told to take your curry off, because if people in Delhi see your curry, they'll kill you. This is that democracy. Now Dr. Manmohan Singh even ties a turban and he's got a beard. These are the people that were being targeted, and Dr. Manmohan Singh belongs to that party. Even after these frenzied attack over that 3 days where thousands of Sikhs were butchered, there was hundreds of thousands of people who said, this is the person Sajjan Kumar who done it. This is the person Jagdish Thaile who's done it. HKL Bhagat, Darshan Shastri, these are the people who killed us. These are the people who we saw organize the killings. Now, Dr. Manmohan Singh's party, rather than bring these people in a court of law, give them ministerships, make them union ministers, reward them. Dr. Manmohan Singh belongs to a party. Now, any self-respecting, not Sikh, even human being would have resigned from that party. I don't want nothing to do with this. But yet he continued to work for that party that butchered Harmandir Sahib, that butchered our people, rose to the top and headed it, and became the Prime Minister of a Congress party that has the blood of thousands upon thousands of innocent people on their hands. Yet Dr. Manmohan Singh has done nothing to wash that blood from their hands. However, people could say to us, well, he was only a member of that party. Sure, he should have given his resignation, but that was what, 25, 30 years ago? But I'd like to look at perhaps something a bit more present, something in our own lifetime that's happened probably, a month ago, while he has been Prime Minister. A young student by the name of Jaspal Singh went to peacefully protest against the death penalty. India claims to be an amazing democracy. There's a group of people in the state that are saying put an end to the death penalty. Yet that student who's part of the peaceful protest gets mowed down, gets shot, gets killed openly in the streets of Punjab, not by a group of bandits or by a group of looters, but by Manmohan Singh's police. Those are the people who take his life. Even in today's era, Dr. Manmohan Singh has done nothing to appease what has happened in Punjab. He has not landed in Punjab. We see many prime ministers across the world. Wherever there's a tragedy or there's been some kind of death or there's been a natural disaster, the prime ministers, the heads of state, they take it upon themselves to go there and lead an inquiry. Why did this happen? He hasn't even been bothered or had the heart. Forget from a Sikh perspective, from a humanitarian, from a civil perspective, to send a letter to that poor mother and sister who've been crying over Jaspal Singh's body and probably continue to cry over his death. He hasn't even apologized to say, I'm sorry this has happened. To your innocent young student son who's probably going on to great things in his life, I'm sorry he has been killed in my country. I am responsible. I will find someone who's responsible. I will take action. But do we see anything? No. Shaheed Jaspal Singh has disappeared. No one's batted an eyelid. This is our Prime Minister. Now, do we really expect anything to be done anyway, even from some of the sentiments that have come from him in the past? He's told us that the massacres that happened in Delhi, that we are sorry that they've happened, but people should move on. They should forget. What we'd like to ask Dr. Manmohan Singh is, if 25 members of your family had been burnt to ashes and all your women had been raped, could you forget that? Even if we have a family member die in our families, we will do a funeral for them. Everybody would come to pay their respects. We will do an Akhand Path every year to make sure we never forget that person, even though they've died a peaceful death. Yet you want to take our basic humanity away from us by forgetting those people. Do we really expect anything from an individual who tells us to forget a genocide? Many people, quite rightly, will say to us, and many people do say it in the international media, that how can you be persecuted as Sikhs, as a minority, when the head of state, the Prime Minister, the top boy is a Sikh, he wears a turban, he's got a beard. The General of the Army, he's a Sikh, so-called Sikh. And the Chief Minister of the state that you're saying is constantly under attack, he's also a Sikh. So how can you face any repression? I think sometimes we need to think a little bit outside the box, and sometimes things aren't always simplistic, and we can't always relate it to something as simple as somebody has got the same skin colour as you, so they think they're exactly the same. Now we can look at America, for example. They've got the first black president in their history, President Obama. Now it was seen as an amazing thing, something that was historic, life-changing. But if you ask those poor black people, working class people who face racism on a day-to-day basis, they're being discriminated, their economic situation is dire, it doesn't resemble anything about the white middle classes. If you ask those people now, since President Obama has taken charge of your life, has your situation changed? Are you economically more viable? Has your social status been elevated? Do you have more political rights? Has racism been demolished? Has discrimination been finished from American life? What you'll get from those questions is a resounding no. And what you'll get from us as Sikhs is a resounding no. Our political discrimination hasn't stopped. The racism against us from the fascist Brahmanvad think tank hasn't stopped. The manoeuvring against our language, against our culture, against our electricity, against our grain, against our water, none of that has stopped. In fact, they're ready to hang even more Sikh people who have given rise to these issues about discrimination and racism faced by us. So I think we shouldn't be duped by this man's turban and his uncut beard. We shouldn't be duped by people's appearances, because we shouldn't be surprised what lengths an individual will go to please the majority population. Somebody who has been brainwashed into this Brahmanvad think tank philosophy is ready to please 85% of 1 billion people rather than 1.6% of 1 billion. Those 85% are more loving. He loves them more because he's in tune with their ideology. He's in tune with the fascist Brahmanvad think tank that says minorities mean nothing to us. So we need to look at this system of governance. People like the Prime Minister have come and gone since 1947, 14 of them. We've had different chief ministers in Punjab. We've had Lok Sabhas, we've had lots of different elections. Yet the politics of genocide and state repression remain the same. We are constantly under attack. And why is that? Because Sikh philosophy doesn't fit in with fascist Brahmanvad think tank, which is based on inferiority and superiority, which is based on caste, which is based on corruption, which is based on anarchy. Sikhism stands for exactly the opposite of that. That is the true democracy, which is why it's being feared. That true democracy by Guru Nanak Dev Ji is feared by the Indian state because it means it doesn't have control over 1 billion people. So Dr. Manmohan Singh, we've probably seen that we can't appeal to you from one Sikh to another, but can we not even appeal to your human conscience? We can see that you buried your head in the sand, but have you buried your morals, dignity and honour as well? You've still got time. You've still got time to address these issues. Gain some respect of your people. Address these issues. Put the culprits who have killed innocent people, put them in the docks. Try them in a democratic way, rather than hanging people like Balwant Singh Ji Rajoana, who all they've done is give rise to the problems that are faced by poor downtrodden people. Poor downtrodden people that you should have been looking after. So it's for us to appeal to you. You've still got time. You are going to meet your maker one day. Those 85% of India's 1 billion population will not be sitting upstairs clapping their hands for you. You're going to have to meet your maker. What answer will you give him? That I let innocent people die at my feet. I had the power to do something about it, but I've done nothing. Why? Because the chair of that prime ministership is way more important to me and way more valuable to me than anybody's life. So what we'd like to ask you, Dr. Manmohan Singh, Prime Minister of India, is, are you willing for that chair to go down in history and be remembered like a Pol Pot, like a Narasimha Rao, Saddam Hussein, Indira Gandhi, a Milosevic? Or will you look deep inside yourself and say, hang on, let me speak the truth. Let me do what is right. Let me not talk about the majority. Let me for once think about the minority. And if you don't do that, you know yourself, coming from a Sikh background, you may not be a Sikh now, but coming from a Sikh background, what kind of history you belong to. Fateh Divs is around the corner. The anniversary when Baba Banda Singh Bahadur, one of our greatest generals, created Khalsa Raj. Now that Khalsa Raj was recreated by Raja Ranjit Singh. And in that Khalsa Raj, even historians have documented that those were true democracies when everybody was treated exactly the same. Because that type of Raj, that type of rule was immersed in our scriptures. And what do our scriptures say? Sarbat Tapala. We pray day and night for the betterment, for the well-being of the whole world. We belong to that nation. We belong to that history. And we still have Banda Singh Bahadurs. We had one in 1984 who led our civil rights movement, who with his power, with his love, with his compassion, with his civil rights, with his human rights, with his social reform, his political rhetoric, shook your tyrannical roots. And in our future, our Guru, who blesses us, continues to bless us, will give us another Banda Singh Bahadur, who will again uproot your tyrannical roots. And so, Dr. Manmohan Singh, I'd just like to remind you of a quote from a great Gursikh of Guru Nanak Dev Ji and a great general of the people, Sant Baba Jarnail Singh Ji Khalsa Pindranawale, that physical death I do not fear, but death of a conscience is a sure death. Dr. Manmohan Singh, you are living and breathing, your body is alive, but your conscience is dead. Yet that man, that great general, his body may not be with us, but his conscience runs through our veins. His thought is alive, and it will be eternal, and it will last forever. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.